Hello, I get to do this mini reading for you. I'm really happy about that. I hope you're feeling better, and I would love to meet you in person sometime very soon. All right, so in a mini toe reading, what I do is I take just the top um, two or three messages from the toes and translate that for you. And then I will also talk to you about your astrology chart and how the two fit in together. In toe reading, the right foot is the external world. It's how you interact with the external world and how others experience you. And the left is all about internal, your spirit path, your connection with source, your self dialogue. All of those things is represented by the left. And then the toes have individual energies. The left toe is your spirit path toe, and the right big toe is your life path toe. The second toes are the communication and expression toes, both internal and external. Third toes are action. Fourth toes are relationships, and fifth toes are trust and prosperity. And so when I look at your toes, the top thing, there are three top things, and they all have to do with your big toes that I notice. So the first thing that I notice is that you got this little cute uplift to your toes here. They come out and they come up. So you are an optimist. You really want things to um, be good and positive. You have you're just one of those people that can see the silver lining, embrace that about yourself. That is part of who you are. You may often get called a dreamer or unrealistic or those things. Just embrace this beautiful optimism that you have. Um, the second thing is that your second toe is slightly longer than your first toe. And so that means that you highly value communication and expression. That is a super high value to you. You like to talk, you like to communicate, and you want to be heard. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in the reading also. And then the third thing that I noticed is the beautiful roundness to the tips of these toes. Now, if you notice, just for context sake, there are some differences going on in these toes. You have a lot more callousing going on here on your left big toe. So I would be curious to know, and this is a good question for you as well. And that is, what kind of spirit, what are you guarding yourself against in your spirit path? Or what have you felt like you needed to protect yourself against in your spirit path? A lot of times as we're growing up, maybe we don't necessarily agree or resonate with the belief system of our family of origin, but then we feel bad about that because oftentimes that's an important part. So how has that played a role in your life? I ask you this because you have a lot of callousing here, and calluses are walls of protection that we put up. This toe is also much straighter, where this one, toenail, meaning it's flatter, whereas this one has that uplift to it. And so perhaps a little less hope or optimism about things of a spiritual nature. Now, when we're talking, there is a difference between spirituality, philosophy, religion. Like there are differences in those, but they all of those things show up in this toe. So just think about it from a spiritual perspective, a religious perspective, a philosophical perspective. Where have you built up walls, and what are you protecting yourself against? Also, with these nice round tips of your great toes, you have a need in this world to take up space, to be seen, to be able to get your ideas across and to self-express. Now, this doesn't have to be like being a show me girl or like, hey, look at me, or attention seeking. It can show up in those ways. And so that would be another good question to explore is, in what ways are you seeking attention or trying to avoid attention because maybe you feel shame about the attention that you crave, and just exploring that. Again, the toes are just telling us where we are right now and our gifts and talents, as well as some areas for work, some challenge areas. So in what ways does the desire to take up space, the desire to be seen, show up for you? Again, communication, high value. And yet, if you look at the difference between these toes and these toes, your communication toes, they point down just a little bit. So this can show up as not feeling seen or heard. Like you see, I'm pushing, like if this is your toe up against this metaphorical block, this energetic block. In what ways are you not feeling seen and heard? In what ways do you feel like you can't express yourself? Have you been told you talk too much, or to settle down, or to, I don't know, the words like be a lady come into your mind, right? Come into my mind. Like, remember, everything comes through a filter. That happens to be something that I got told a lot as a child. But like be a lady. And what does that mean? Like when we really look at it, what does that mean? It means be seen and not heard. Keep the peace. Be sweet. And that just doesn't work for us anymore. It just doesn't work for us anymore. You were born to be seen. Okay, so I would recommend gently massaging these toes. You've got a pretty big callus here as well. This is the one that needs the most attention. So just gently rubbing on that toe and releasing those blocks, releasing these protections that you've put in place for yourself that may no longer serve you. Not saying that all of them need to go, but it's time for some of them to go. And then with these toes, gently pushing up on these toes like this for flexibility. They look fairly flexible. You want them to be flexible, but not flimsy, because you definitely want to be able to stand your ground. But we want them to have a little bit more of an uplift so that they feel like they can be better expressed, better seen. And then these spaces here between these first and second toes. This is your leadership. Like I said, you are meant to be seen. You are a leader. People will follow you if you don't repel them. And when I say repel, sometimes we have a deep fear of being followed. Those are actually the kinds of leaders I admire the most, because they're self-aware enough to realize the power that they wield. You're self-aware enough to realize that people are following you, and that can feel uncomfortable. Just embrace the fact that people can and will and want to follow you. All right. You are a natural leader. You are also highly intuitive. This is the channel of intuition. Very, very intuitive. Trust your gut. Now, that came out, trust your gut. But I want you to take a minute and just contemplate how you feel your intuition. Is it in your gut? Is it in another energy center? Is it a download into your crown chakra? Where do you feel your intuition? Because we're not having a conversation together, I'm not sure where you are, but based on the group of people that I know you're hanging out with, you're familiar with the language that I am speaking. And if not, we can have another discussion about it. But follow your intuition. It is on. Let's talk just a little bit about your chart here. So in your chart, everyone's chart, when you were born, this is what the sky looked like. If you would have walked out and looked up at the sky is broken up into 12 pieces of pie based on constellations. That's these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are called the houses. And then the planets and the stars were all in these placements in the sky. And then these pieces of pie, they shift around, every 24 hours they move. And so your rising sign here is what would move. So if you would have been born, just, an hour earlier or an hour later, you would have been in a different rising sign. So I'm going to talk to you about your three big, the three big components of your astrology chart, and that's your sun, your moon, and your rising. And I'm going to talk to you about just a couple of other places in your chart that are important for you. So your sun is in Pisces. You may or may not have already known that, but you are a Pisces sun. Very intuitive, desire bliss, peace, and transcendence. You're a dreamer, this optimistic big toe. You are a dreamer. And then you've got your moon here. So your moon is your non-negotiable needs. You have a need for spirituality in your life. You have a need to experience bliss and to experience transcendent dreamlike states. You also really want peace and harmony and love, and you just want everybody to get along. And they are in, your sun and your moon are in this 12th house, which is also ruled by Pisces. So you have a lot of Pisces energy in your chart. You also have Jupiter. That's this one that looks like a 4 with a little hook on it. Okay, Jupiter here also in your 12th house and in the sign of Pisces. And so when Jupiter is in your 12th house, that's an angel on your shoulder for this whole lifetime. Have you been divinely protected? Do you feel that divine protection that you've received in this lifetime? You have that. Embrace that. Jupiter also amplifies everything. So your need for this bliss and transcendence it's not negotiable. In order for you to be happy, this is what you need. This is also the way that you make your impact in the world. Now, you also have a lot of Aries energy. You have your rising sign. So your sun, your moon, those are both in Pisces, and your rising, these are the big three, is in Aries. Now you've also got a lot in Aries. Aries is it stands for the ram's horn, and that's this symbol right here. So if you look at your Aries, you've got Venus in Aries, Chiron in Aries, your rising sign in Aries. You don't need to worry about what those particular things are, but you've also got a lot of Aries influence in your chart. And so this may have been something that's overshadowed some of this need for spirituality, because Aries is very driven. Aries rules these action toes here, and your action toes are straight. Like you are an action taker. And that is so beautiful. And because Aries energy is very much what our culture loves and embraces, and we get lots of kudos for it, and we're seen as being successful when we have, when we're action takers. You may have covered up, which might be part of this callousing that you have on here, some of this these spiritual gifts and these spiritual needs. You are a physical person. You likely identify, with having a strong body, with being a little bit lusty and passionate. So really, I would invite you to consider, where is the balance between the Aries energy, that driven energy, that point A to point B, super passionate, and your Pisces energy, which is about love and peace and harmony and spirituality. Where is the balance there for you? If you are not an entrepreneur, you should be an entrepreneur. Okay. We can talk about that more if you desire to, but you were born to be an entrepreneur. Another question for you to consider is, what family patterns that are not serving you and really aren't serving your family are you hanging on to? It's time to release those family patterns. That's this symbol, Saturn down here in Cancer, in the 4th house. Again, like some of this language that I'm using, if you don't understand it, do not worry about it. It's the messages that are important. What family patterns is it time for you to release because they're not serving you? So the way that I would recommend aiding in that release of family patterns is taking this 4th toe here. You can see how this 4th toe, it's got this bend in it. You have experienced some relationship trauma. And so take this toe and just gently rub it. So if this is the toe, I'm going to take my fingers and I'm just going to gently rub that toe with the focus and the intent of releasing family patterns that do not serve you. Okay, that concludes this mini reading. Please reach out to me if you have any questions at all. And thank you. Thank you so much for the honor of doing this reading.